Hello and welcome to Solomoriah Speaks, Episode 19, Boxed Text and Bullet Points. On a thread on the Facebook group the other day, the question was asked, what thing or things in an adventure module turn you off to that module? What things do you hate to see? And one thing that really caught my attention was several people complained about boxed text. Now, if you are a close follower of the Basic Fantasy Project, you know we always have boxed text. That virtually every room or encounter area in an adventure has text that is boxed, that is written to be read to the players, whether or not you actually do that or you choose to paraphrase it or whatever. Two different things came out of that. One school of thought is that the adventure should just have an explanation for the game master, and that the game master should then create his or her own descriptive text for each area, should say whatever they want to say about the area in their own words. And the other was a small but fairly vocal minority who think that bullet point format is better, that adventure area should be written as bullet points, where each detail of a room should be written out as a separate bullet point. And so I decided to come on here to talk about this, not just to justify our position, but to talk about the issues and the differences in the way game masters use adventures. First of all, I don't expect you to read the box text the way I wrote it, or the way we wrote it. Particularly for adventures that I've written, obviously the box text is written in my voice. It's perfectly reasonable for me to just read it. One person commented that the moment that they heard a game master reading boxed text out of the adventure as it was written, they tuned out. Now, I can understand not finding that maybe the most exciting way to get your information, but it's a role-playing game where you are in a dungeon, you're in a potentially dangerous environment. There are clues, there's information in that boxed text. If you don't like having it delivered that way, you probably need to find a different game master, because your game master probably, for one reason or another, has chosen to do that. And that's how you're getting your information. You're not going to be able to play the game effectively if you're not paying attention to it. So I didn't understand that. I've been in games with game masters who were not particularly skilled at that act, at the process of either reading or paraphrasing the text. It's just a matter of learning the skill. It's a matter of learning the art of doing it. Something that you get better at through practice, but something that some people are just going to be better at than others. Some game masters can do voices. Some game masters don't bother to try because they know what the results are going to be like, and that's up to you as a game master to decide how you run your game. Players will either like it and show up for it, or they won't. And there's not much you can do about that other than just to be the best game master you know how to be. One of the problems that I do see, and this is a digression, but one of the problems I do see a lot with adventures that are submitted to us is failure to properly separate information. What is in the boxed text is what you should, or what the adventure designer thinks you should reveal to the players. You should tell this to the players. They should know this information. It should be available to them. They look in a room and this is what they see. They see these things in these places and so forth, and the description should be succinct, simple, but adequately colorful to give them information that they need. I don't like bullet points for two reasons. One reason could be fixed, and one reason really can't. Many game designers who use bullet point text ignore completely the separation of information, the idea that there should be something visible to the game master using the adventure right as he glances or she glances, they glance at the page, that tells them this is what you tell the players, this is what you don't tell the players. The separation. Bullet points are usually written, my experience with the ones I've seen, and this will obviously vary depending on your particular author, but the ones I've seen are frequently written so that The bullet points just expose the information in a form that the game master can digest. If you as the game master are running an adventure that you aren't fully familiar with every possible room and event, and when are we not? When are we running adventures where we know everything, where you can remember everything up front? Maybe you can. I can't. I've never been able to do that, and I don't know a lot of game masters who have that skill to completely contain the adventure in their heads. If they did, what would they need the print for? So you are describing a room to the players, and you are not completely familiar with it. You remember the room, what it's about. It's a work encounter. It's a hidden treasure. It's a do-nothing room to waste time. There's a trap, whatever. There are various possibilities, various things that might be in that room. And you're reading the bullet points, and you are reading them to yourself and paraphrasing on the fly to the players. If that is written in a form where it contains all the game master's information right up front, there is a nightstand beside the bed. Inside the nightstand is something important. Players don't know what's inside the nightstand. They haven't even walked in the room yet necessarily when you're reading this description to them. That information needs to be separated out. I think I've done an example previously of this, but it's pretty obvious. There's no separation there. So you as the game master reading through the bullet points and trying to paraphrase as you read are going to stall as you drop over those things that you can't tell the players. You're going to actually start saying a sentence, and halfway through you're going to stop suddenly, and the players know that there's something there because you stopped suddenly because you didn't want to read the part to them that you were supposed to read them, but you didn't foresee it. You couldn't see it coming as you were reading the sentence. And I have seen this happen. I have, not with bullet points, but with badly written box text. I've seen this happen. I've even had it happen to me. The object is to fluidly and seamlessly give the players information about a room so that, hello, Cole, so you don't need to be purring into the microphone, buddy, so that the players can have the information in a compact fashion, a fashion that they can understand, so that you give them the hints you're supposed to give them without making them too obvious, without just pointing a big arrow. There is something here you need to look at. Lord knows the players are going to grab onto stuff anyway that they decide is critically important, that probably has nothing to do with anything at all, but that's what happens. Players do that because they don't have perfect knowledge. There's just no way that they're going to know. The whole point of this is for them to figure out the mystery. I was reminded of that. I hadn't actually played a game in quite a while, and a friend invited me to play a Star Trek themed science fiction game. And like a lot of good Star Trek plots, it involved a mystery, and we had to solve it. And we made missteps. I made missteps along the way in understanding what was going on, but we were supposed to. We were supposed to have trouble figuring it out. We did eventually get it worked out. And that's how it works. That's how the game is supposed to work. Now, you can fix that. You can write your bullet point text in such a fashion that you give this many bullet points or information that you should give the players. This many bullet points is information you should not give the players. You still have the problem where there is a hint, where depending on how you structure your bullet points, where the simple stall as you advance from one bullet point to the next while you're paraphrasing it, while you're describing it, the players may notice the stall and realize that something that should be an aside or a tail end on a description is actually something important on its own. It calls attention to it. Writing a good bullet point for someone like me to use is going to be really difficult. People who keep telling me that bullet points are objectively better are not being objective. Watch my video about accommodation and you get a better idea of what I'm talking about here. But players and game masters think, learn, and perform in different ways. Different game masters have different needs. The question isn't, is this adventure written in a fashion that is useful to you personally in the best possible way for you? Is this adventure that we are going to publish in a book, is this adventure written in a form where the vast majority of game masters will be able to use it effectively? If you are the kind of person who doesn't like boxed text, if you are never ever going to read my words the way I wrote them, that's fine. That's your business. Do it how you want to. But understand that if our box text is written right, and it is our intention for it always to be written right, every bit of information that's exposed inside the box is meant to be given to the players. So you don't have to spend time thinking about what parts not to tell. You read that box text and then turn around and say the description of the players however you want to say it, in your words, in your fashion, in whatever voice you're using. But you know that the information I've presented to you in that box is what I expected you to give the players. Now, you may disagree with me. You may look at the room and think, well, this should be obvious. I'm going to throw this in. That's your business. It is your game. Run your game how you want to. But know that my intention is clear by the way I've used the box text. And it's our intention for all of our box text to be that way, to collect that information together. A hybrid might be effective. A combination of bullet points for the game master's information and box text for the player information. It might be effective. It's also possible that I can see how it might be possible to write box text so that on the printed page it appears almost like bullet points, so that you as a game master can digest it bit by bit. I can see that those things might be possible. I'm not convinced it's worth it. I'm not convinced it is worth it to our game masters, that it is going to make things better for the majority of people who are buying our adventures or who are downloading them for free off the website. I'm not sure that it's going to be the most effective way for them to use the material on the average. If you are a bullet point proponent, good, I guess. Good for you. I'm finding, though, that my experience so far, the proponents of bullet point format are in a strong minority. There's definitely more people who don't like bullet points than there are that do. I really couldn't tell you statistically how many people like or don't like box text. I see a lot of groaning about it. But the point of this is, you don't have to read the box text the way we wrote it. You don't have to read those words word for word that way. If that offends you, if you don't want to do that, if your players zone out and don't pay attention, slap them around, they need to wake up. But if that's your thing, that's your thing. Do what you need to do for your game. But just understand that there's a purpose. There's a purpose to box text beyond just giving the game master something easy to read. The purpose is to tell the game master clearly, this information is expected to be given to the players. This is the information the adventure designer thinks the players need to know to progress through the adventure, that they should know, that they should see. And the rest of this stuff that's not in a box is stuff that you need to know, and then you need to deal with it as they come to it. And okay, I'm going to digress a little further. This has been pretty short so far. Regarding good adventure area design, I've written about this. I don't remember if I've done very much in the way of videos on it, but I've written about this. And I suppose if you watch the video where I create the Royal Catacomb of Adri adventure based on Dyson Logos' excellent map, you will have seen me making these decisions. How you structure the information that you give in an encounter area is important. If there's an actual obvious encounter, 4 orcs sitting around a crate playing cards, or maybe kneeling in the corner throwing dice, throwing bones, as it were, something like that, then you should have a boxed text that describes the monsters and gives a very brief description of the room. This looks like a storeroom. There are 4 orcs in the corner, kneeling down, throwing bones. You don't need to describe the rest of the contents of the room. Player characters don't have time at the moment that they see the monsters to Sorry about the jerk there. Cole bumped into the tripod. Um, Players don't need all the rest of the detail. They can't see it. They won't have time to count the money on the table, or even to note what types of coinage is there. Um, so you just give them a brief description. And then in our adventures, typically we would say, after the encounter has been resolved, here's the rest of the description, and you describe what else is in the room. If during the fight a player says, I'm looking around the room, do I see a stick of some kind? Then you read through that description real quick. You don't read them the whole description. You just say, yeah, over by such and such crater in the northeast corner, or off to your left, you see a pole. And you can go from there. Still don't need to give everything to them. Then you have a second box that has the information about the room that they can see when the monster fight has been resolved. If the monsters have died, fled, whatever. Of course, if the player characters flee, they'll never have a chance they won't have a chance at that point to do the rest of the description, because they're running the heck away rather than looking around. But whatever the situation is, the box text is there to help you understand what you need to tell them. Adventure designers generally have a plan. Whether they could tell you what that plan is or not, they generally have a plan for how they expect the rooms to go, how they expect the events to occur, and you should at least know that, even if you disagree with it, even if you're making changes to it. You're running an adventure because you like the area, and the monsters are fine, but you've completely retooled the reason why the players are there, or the reason why the characters have been drawn to this place. You've got a whole different reason for it, and you're working your way through that. That's up to you, but it's there for a reason. If you are a proponent of bullet point text, if you want to tell me how great it is, come to the forum. Don't do it on the YouTube page, because I don't think we can format it adequately to understand what's going on. Come to the forum, post in general discussion. Show me what you think a good bullet point description of a room is. Pick a complicated room and describe it. Not complicated in the sense that there's a lot of text, but complicated in the sense that there's a number of details. I'm looking through BF1 Morgansforth, the most recent print release, at this point, just to see if there's an example. Room 16 from the Old Island Fortress, the Rabbit Hole. It's got 2 blocks of box text, because there's one for approaching in daylight and one approaching in the dark. There are monsters. There are items scattered around the area. I did not provide a box text for that, because they pretty much have to do a search to see those items. Information about where the stairs go, and of course the monster statistics. Better for me would, I don't even know what better would be, but I'd like to see it. If you want to take a crack at it, come over to the forum, go over to general discussion, post yourself a thread, or if you see one there that someone else has started, feel free to comment on it. I mean, this is how the project moves forward. People join the forum. People participate. YouTube is where I come to express opinions. I will use this video as an answer to questions. When somebody says to me, why don't you use box text? I'm not going to answer them. I'm going to send them this video, because I get tired of answering the same question over and over again. Who doesn't? So this is going to be what this video is for, to guide people to understand my position. I had a editor comment to me about the style of prose used in a boxed text box. He described it as beige prose. I had to look that up. I didn't realize there was an opposite to purple prose. Now I understand. Purple prose is full of colorful words and artistic expression. Beige prose is as boring and plain as it can be, as simple, avoids unnecessary large words, doesn't use a lot of emotional description, pretty boring. I mean, it's beige. I replied back to that editor that I wasn't looking for purple, but I really didn't want beige either. Could we do a light turquoise? because that's what I want to see. I want to see box text with a little personality, with a little punch, not a lot of punch, not a lot of words, not a lot of emotional description. Compact and simple, but not too bland. Not too bland. Um, so I guess that's the video. Not that long a one this time. If you have questions or comments, feel free to post comments here on YouTube. But if it's going to get to be a detailed discussion about something, join us on the forum. The Basic Fantasy RPG forums is where we design everything for the game in public, in full view. If you want to know what's getting ready to be printed, go to the forum. I mean, that's where you're going to find that out. The information is there. You can look at pre-release items, documents that have not yet been released in print, documents that may never be printed, but are available for your use if you want to download and use them. I've been working on the Wandering Monsters supplement book for well over a decade. It'll probably never see print, but it's out there. There's a lot of stuff out there that you can use in your game. So, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Like to see you in the comments below, or even better on the forum. And you all have a nice day.